This next build I'm going to be showing you guys is a hammer spellbreaker, and I call it the Disruptor because it focuses on removing boons and CCing enemies and basically preventing them from doing what they want to do. So it's really good for team fights because you allow your teammates to kind of do what they want to do because you're preventing the enemy from, stopping your team, and it's kind of low on the damage if you go for the Dagger shield version, but if you want, there is a you can just put on a greatsword as well, but I like the Dagger version of this build because I'll talk to you a little bit about that later. So let's just go over a general overview first. So I go into Strength, Discipline, Spellbreaker. That's pretty normal for Spellbreaker builds. I take Aristocracy and Demolisher Amulet. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Aristocracy, that's a Condi amulet, or a Condi rune. But yeah, it's a power build, but Aristocracy is really good because whenever you inflict weakness with a 1 second ICD, you gain 5 stacks of might for 4 seconds, and then you have a lot of might duration with the rune as well. So basically the Condi stat is useless on this rune, but because you get so much might from this and there's so much might synergy in strength, it actually gives you more damage and more sustain than any other rune would give you. So we'll talk about that as well after I go over the weapons. So on my hammer, I take Sigil of Battle. That's kind of like more synergy with gaining might, and I take Energy Sigil on the hammer as well. It's nice to just have swap sigils on warrior because your swap is so low cooldown because of fast hands. So you can, it's kind of like their cooldown is 9 seconds, but your swap is 5 seconds, right? In a normal class, you would have a 9-second weapon swap. So it would take you like 18 seconds to get back to it, right? Because you swap, and then you have to wait for the cooldown, and then you swap. But with Warrior, since your cooldowns on your weapon swap is 5 seconds, you can kind of like get your swap sigils faster. Now, if you put double of the swap sigil on both of your weapons, like some classes can do like double energy, you can't do that on Warrior. But there's no reason for you to do that because if you just put one, you kind of get that same effect. So you want to get a lot of swap sigils on Warrior. However, on my Dagger shield, I run Courage and Revocation because obviously you don't want to run double battle, so I take Courage instead for more might application, like I said, with the synergy with strength. And Revocation is really good as well because you want to be removing boons on this build because that gives you adrenaline with loss aversion, and it's also pretty good for making plays where you can actually interrupt people where they have stability by removing that. So yeah, that's why I take those. So let's go over the traits. Strength, you get Reckless Impact, so whenever you dodge in combat, you will do a decent amount of damage, and then you'll give yourself might per enemy you hit. So that's really good because it synergizes with all the might application in all the strength stuff. And it's also unblockable, so that's pretty good. You take peak performance because that gives you, around 10% damage increase at all times. There's not really much else you can use, and I'm using 4 physical skills, so yeah, you have this buff up time pretty much all the time. And then building momentum is pretty important because burst skills will give you endurance. So as a Spellbreaker, you get a lot of your burst skills off because full counter recharges your burst skill, and that gives you a lot of endurance, which means you can dodge more, which means you can, hit more might, and then that can give you more might makes right, which is whenever you gain might, you will gain health and endurance. So it's kind of like a feedback loop. Like you gain might, which gives you endurance, which gives you dodges, which gives you might. So there's a lot of synergy in the strength trait line with itself. And yeah, this just gives you a lot of sustain. So this is kind of necessary on warrior. So like I'm using a hammer, but I'm not using Merciless Hammer because the damage increase only really applies to like Fierce Blow, so it doesn't really affect any of your other hammer skills. So it's, I mean, while this is a big skill to land and do damage with, it's, you know, taking one whole trait just for one skill isn't really that good. And then obviously lowering your hammer cooldowns is very good, and getting adrenaline is very good as well with Merciless Hammer, but you already have loss aversion, so it's kind of like overkill at that point. So Might Makes Right is definitely more important because that allows you to gain the sustain that you as a warrior should have to feel like a bruiser. So yeah. Next, I take Body Blow instead of Forceful Greatsword. Now you can take the Greatsword variant, right, and use Forceful Greatsword, and then you could use a different rune, and that's kind of nice too because the build kind of lacks Fury, and with Greatsword you can get Fury from the Greatsword burst ability. But I like this build a little bit better because it has more disruption. So I take Body Blow, which gives you weakness and like a 12-second bleed whenever you CC someone. So you can pretty much have weakness on people for really high uptime because this build has so many CCs. Let's just look at how many CCs I have. First of all, I have weakness here on Fierce Blow. I have, you know, a CC here, here, here. Full counter is a CC. I have 2 CCs on my utilities, and then my Rampage is just, you know, 3 CCs there as well. Dagger, I have CC here. Shield, I have CC there. So there's tons of CCs, and that all just gives weakness. And then, you know, the bleed is kind of irrelevant because this is a power build, but it may add a little bit of damage, but it's mostly kind of just like a cover condi, which is kind of okay because you'll be putting on weakness, right? And if they want to cleanse weakness, they might have to cleanse bleeding instead or something like that. And obviously you'll be giving out Immobilize from Spellbreaker whenever you daze or stun someone, but that's only 1 second, so they're usually not going to cleanse and Immobilize. But it's nice because in some cases, if you do immobilize someone and they need to really get out of that immobilize immediately, then they'd have to Condi cleanse, right? And if they use a stun break Condi cleanse and it doesn't cleanse the immobilize for some reason because they're weakened and bleeding, then that could be really good because then they'd be using their stun break and Condi cleanse and still have immobilize. So I'm not really sure if there's like a priority there, but that is kind of nice. And yeah, so just Body Blow is really nice because of the Aristocracy synergy, right? So there's a 1 second cooldown on Aristocracy, so you can't really do it in AoE like with, say, Rampage, Stomp, or Earthshaker. But every time you use a CC, right, and it lands and you CC them, it will give you 1 proc of the Aristocracy, which is 5 stacks of might, which is, you know, 66 times 5 healing. And then because this, how Might Makes Right works is it scales with each stack of might that you gain. It's not just one application of it. So if I gain 5 stacks of might, it's this effect times 5. So yeah, your endurance can, as you'll see here, go up very high. So I'm gonna do this, and then I'll gain some might here and gain some adrenaline. As you can see, I'm getting more dodges over time, and yeah, it's just really good because that helps you to survive because dodges is really good, and it just gives you more damage as well because you're able to, you know, dodge on people and do damage. So it's just really good. So yeah, that's kind of how the strength trait line works. Discipline is very straightforward as well. You just have adrenaline on weapon swap. You want to be constantly weapon swapping because, You want to be gaining as much adrenaline as possible, so you can use burst skills, because burst skills give you CC, which gives you, weakness, which gives you might. So it's just kind of like a lot of synergy here with the build. Warrior Sprint obviously makes you immune to immobilizes, because you have so many leap skills and all of them remove immobilize, so that's really good. So I mean, this is just insane, right? This trait, you can't really give up discipline for that reason. Obviously fast hands. Brawler's Recovery is just a no-brainer. You want that Condi Cleanse. Warriors are actually kind of weak on Condi Cleanse, so you'll see a little bit later the choices that I make. You also gain Might on Weapon Swap too, so you gain more synergy with Might Makes Right whenever you weapon swap. So it's just more sustain, more damage, and obviously Burst Mastery. So you want to be, whenever you use a burst skill, you're going to gain swiftness, and that'll give you a little bit of synergy with Warrior Sprint. But mostly you just want the adrenaline recovery from using burst skills, so that you can use them more often. Because how Spellbreaker works is, so a lot of people probably don't really know this, a lot of people probably know it, but a lot more people probably don't know it. But whenever you use full counter, I can't really show it because no one's attacking me, but your burst skill will basically recharge. It says it there. Absorb the next attack against you. It actually doesn't say it. So full counter doesn't actually say that it recharges your burst skills. Not really sure where it says this, but okay, here it says it right here. So full counter refreshes all burst skills on hit. So it's kind of like just should be already in the skill fact, but maybe the skill fact was too much, so they put it on a minor trait, which you're kind of forced to take anyways. But yeah, so anyways, as I was trying to say, yeah, so full counter recharges your burst skills, and that means that you can use your F1 and then you use F2, and if they proc it, then you can use your F1 again, and it allows you to just kind of like do a lot of CCs and a lot of boon ripping. So yeah, it's really good because of loss aversion and dispelling force. So these two traits are where you get your boon removal from. So whenever you CC someone, you're not only giving them weakness, bleeding, and immobilize, you're also removing a boon. So you gain a lot of, disruption on a lot of boon heavy classes. Spellbreaker is really good at that. And also loss aversion gives you adrenaline whenever you remove a boon, and it does a little bit of damage. But also on your Dagger F1 burst skill, you remove 3 boons. So yeah, you remove quite a bit of boons on this build. And the main reason why I like Dagger instead of Greatsword on this build, even though you can definitely run Greatsword, is because if someone has stability, you can't really remove that boon other than CCing them. But since you can't CC them because they have stability, then it's kind of like, So Breaching Strike is like a boon removal that allows you to remove stability so that you can get in there and do your actual CC abilities. So yeah, that's kind of like the main point there. And of course, once you start getting the ability to CC them, you can start snowballing it and remove more boons. So yeah. Also, I've already mentioned you immobilize when you daze. You also, whenever you disable or remove a boon, you gain Attacker's Insight, which is a 15-second buff, which stacks up to 5, and gives you 45 Ferocity and 45 Power. So you can pretty much have maximum stacks of Attacker's Insight. So that's quite a bit of stats there. So if you can see here, I'll try to stack that up a little bit. And right now, yeah, so as you can see, I have like 3 stacks of Attacker's Insight, and I have like 15 Might. So yeah, I have 3,000 Power right now, and that's a lot more than a lot of other builds would have, right? Because they'd have maybe like, well, let's just look at another amulet or a different rune. So let's look at, I was looking at Fury options here, but yeah, if I use, say, Fighter Rune is a very common choice for warriors because it gives you the might application that you want. So say I use Fighter Rune here, and I use my heal skill, that'll give me some might, and then I CC with Attacker's Insight and get some of those stacks. So as you can see here, I've got like 2,700 power. You know, it's not amazing, but you know, it's pretty good still. But with Aristocracy Rune, yeah, you get, I mean, right, like you're giving up power to get even more power. So it's kind of like, yeah, Aristocracy seems like it's better potentially, and then Fighter Rune is just kind of like more reliable. So I just like Aristocracy because it also just gives you more might application, which is also more like sustain. And then Fighter Rune, it'll give you a lot more toughness, right? So you can either take Aristocracy or you can take Fighter Rune. If you're using the Greatsword variant, then you probably use Fighter Rune, and then if you're using this version, you probably want to use Aristocracy. So yeah, that's pretty much the idea there. I want to get out of combat. And yeah, so yeah, you want to be giving out a lot of Attacker's Insight and Weakness so that you just gain tons of stats. And also, I didn't even mention that, you know, Ferocity gives you a lot of crit damage as well, and that's really nice for, you know, your really big fierce blows. So yeah, finally I have Revenge Counter. So most people take Magebane Tether, but I like Revenge Counter because not only does it give you resistance, which is really important because a lot of people can counterplay your full counter by just blinding you, and that's fine and all because in 1v1 Magebane Tether doesn't really care about it that much, but this build is actually kind of like a team fighting build. So I want to land my full counter on as many people as possible and just, you know, disrupt as many people as possible. And if I don't land my full counter on them, it doesn't daze them, it doesn't remove boons, it doesn't, you know, CC them, doesn't give them weakness. So I want to always be able to land my full counter, and having resistance when full counter happens, make sure that the daze always lands. And it's a 2-second daze, so it's just really important. And in team fights you get blinded very often, so yeah, it's just really important to have this resistance. And it's also really good versus Condi classes, so it kind of makes you tankier. And just everyone uses Condis in general, so yeah, just resistance is really strong. Magebane Tether is better in 1v1s though, for sure, because it gives you more sustain, more damage, and kind of like a burst ability where you get some CC. But obviously this build kind of is a team fighting build, so I like Revenge Counter. And also it gives out condition copying, so in team fights it actually will do a lot of disruption, right? Because if it CCs them and it copies conditions, it'll give out, you know, these 3 conditions plus potentially 3 other conditions that it copies out. So it's just really strong and has that same kind of like idea of the Firebrand build with the, you know, the whenever you CC someone, you give out like slow and all these other Condis. So it's like a power build with a lot of cover Condis. And that's why this build is really good at disrupting, because it gives out a lot of debilitating Condis and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. The playstyle is pretty normal as well. Like, you have a lot of CC skills. So normally what you want to do is, you know, just use your 2 skill on Dagger to open up. It's just really high damage and good opener. When you get enough adrenaline to use your F1, you want to save that for, you know, removing, you know, key boons, and you just, you know, go for like disrupting stab when you can, and that'll daze and immobilize them. And daze plus immobilize is basically like a better stun, because they can't move and they can't use skills, so it's like a stun, right? So you stun into your shield bash. When you land your shield bash, they're going to be stunned, right? And fierce blow does more damage to disabled foes. So you want to go into hammer 2 immediately after you land your shield bash, and that'll do a lot of damage. I'll just show you how much it does. So I didn't even crit, and it did like 2k. But what you want to do is land your Fierce Blow on one of your CC skills, and then you want to land another CC, and then Backbreaker, and Backbreaker recharges your Fierce Blow. So you want to do something like this into, well, that's gonna not, it's gonna kill it before I can land the combo. So something like this into that, and then 5 into 2, and then you can do basically 2 Fierce Blows in a row because your Backbreaker recharges your Fierce Blow. You kind of never want to use Backbreaker when your Fierce Blow is off cooldown, because then you lose that value of recharging it. So yeah, you pretty much want to just focus on landing like a small CC into a larger CC, and then once you land that larger CC, you want to land Fierce Blow, and then when Fierce Blow is on cooldown, it's actually a 4-second cooldown, so a lot of times you're just going to Backbreaker and it's going to be off cooldown anyways. But you know, if you can, you want to land a smaller CC first, and then one of your bigger CCs, right, is Shield Bash, it's Bull's Charge, and it is Backbreaker. And then once you land one of those 3 CCs, you want to definitely go for a Fierce Blow, and then, you know, use another one of your smaller CCs to kind of like land and then lead into one of your bigger CCs. So that's pretty much the playstyle right there. Just try to land CCs, and once you do land a CC, go for a bigger CC, and then you Fierce Blow, and then you Backbreaker for another Fierce Blow, and that's where you get a lot of your damage. So it looks something kind of like this. So that, I didn't crit, so I didn't crit again. It's kind of unfortunate. I'm going to, so I have another big CC here. This is a 2-second knockdown. This is a 2-second stun. So I can do those into Hammer 2, and that's a 4K, and you know, those add up after a while. So, and then in Dagger, you do want to also use Breaching Strike, right? So, also full counter counts as a kind of soft CC too, right? Because it's a daze and you'll immobilize. So there's just so many CCs on this build to kind of like lead into like your bigger CCs. It's just really strong, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And then for utilities, I like to take Mending. Mending is pretty strong because it has Condi Cleanse on it, and it's a physical, so it's a really low cooldown. So it's probably the highest heal per second healing skill right now, which is really good for warriors. I obviously take Bull's Charge and Stomp because Stomp is a really good stun break and a CC, so it's very versatile for the build. And Bull's Charge is just really strong, right? So here's where the build kind of has a little bit of an option. So most people have been using Shake It Off for a really long time, but recently that's been nerfed to a count recharge of 75 seconds. And while there is 2, you know, counts of it, once you've used the second count, you know, you're on a 75-second cooldown in it. Sometimes you'll even like respawn and it'll still be off cooldown. So like it's just a way too long of a cooldown unless you're using the Shouts trait. So I like Featherfoot Grace instead, because not only is this a stun break just like Shake It Off, but it's a lower cooldown. So obviously there's counterplay to this because, you know, resistance can be stripped, but the thing is this only cleanses 4 conditions anyways. And so it's just kind of like, do you want to be in like bigger situations where you can just be immune to all Condis and then have a risk of them getting, you know, your resistance ripped? Or do you just want to have like a really kind of like low value, safe, you know, Condi Cleanse that's also got a stun break attached? And this also gives super speed. I think it's just better because it's a lower cooldown. It's kind of like less risky, to be honest, in my opinion. But yeah, there's just a lot of resistance on this build too. So like you have resistance on full counter as well. So if, you know, if your Featherfoot Grace does get interrupted or stripped, you can just get resistance again from full counter. And you still have Condi Cleanse from Mending and from Brawler's Recovery. So in this match, I'll be going towards mid. We cross towards mid, and it looks like their whole team is crossing, so we have to be careful there. I disengage, and my teammate dies, so I immediately go to far because That means that mid's probably going to be lost. Alright, Ellie is going to try to cap mid, and I attempt to 1v1 the Guardian on far. Now, this is a Condi Guardian, so yeah, this is pretty much a hard losing matchup for me, because there's just not enough Condi cleanse. You know, while the Condi cleanse that I have is very nice, because he only gives like one Condi, and I can use Brawler's recovery to remove that one Condi most of the time. It's still not enough, because just like the blinds and the blocks, it's too disruptive to a warrior. So yeah, kind of Guardian has always kind of been the counter to warrior until Spellbreaker came out. But I think that still that my build isn't really that much of a 1v1 build, so it's kind of a disadvantageous matchup, and I should just leave, to be honest. But it's kind of complicated by the fact that we lost mid, right? So I kind of am forced to be here, and I leave my Rampage there because I had a 4 stack of burn. I didn't want to keep that on me. So yeah, at this point I probably am going to lose. Though the thing is, in this matchup, if someone +1s me, I can get the kill very easily. So if one of my teammates comes here, it'd be very nice, right? Because I could just CC and we get the kill. So instead of like me taking the 1v1 and expecting someone to +1, I should just go +1 somewhere else and help them get the kill. So I leave and I look at mid. That's already getting free capped, and it looks like their whole team is at our home. So I'm gonna go there instead, even though we're already kind of like losing this fight. So there's not really anywhere I can go on the map at this point, because if I go to mid, right, we don't need to go there. Maybe I should have gone there actually, but yeah, I go towards home instead. And this is a core necro, so core necros are kind of dangerous, but the thing is, the only real way that they can kill me is if they land their tainted shackles. So all I have to do is really play around that, right? I have plenty of Condi cleanse for that. So yeah, I also get a +1 there from my Revenant, so we get this kill very easily. And I'm gonna cap the node, but I really don't want to be stuck in 1v1s. I can hold the node very easily, but I don't want to be trying to like aggress nodes necessarily. So in this situation, we're going to be in a 2v2 in roads. I'm just going to try to peel for my Revenant, so I stomp and get some nice CC off. This is like 2 Revenants here, I think a Condi and a Power Rev. Yeah, one's Shiro Rev. So I have to be careful here. Revs are very high damage class. And my teammate dies. I can't res them, so I just try to stall the node as long as I can, because this is our home node, so I can just stall until my Rev respawns, and then maybe they can help me, or they can rotate out and I'll just give up the node and decide what to do from there. But I am actually holding the node very well here, and I get some resistance, which kind of like nullifies the Condi Rev, and then I'm just CCing the Power Rev. So it's kind of allowing me to survive this 1v2 by ignoring the Condi Rev and just CCing the Power Rev. And now that my teammate is here, I just CC and we get the kill on the Power Rev. So yeah, I see that their Necro's coming in. I don't really have that much down cleave, but I do have a lot of CC. So I can prevent people from rezzing, and my teammate here, the Reaper, can finish them off with his heavy damage. So that's really nice. So this is kind of where I want to be. I want to be in team fights and forcing kills by helping my teammates get those kills, not necessarily getting those kills by myself, but kind of like facilitating them. But I am getting kind of chased here, so I try to survive, and my teammates just need to rotate in. We're like 3v1ing home. It's unnecessary. So I try to just survive as long as possible to get our team some presence on the map, because yeah, we're not going to win with one node. So I go in the mid. Now we're kind of in a bad situation in terms of my health, But we do get a kill because I kite for long enough to get that kill. And there's a Kanye Rev on me, but I have resistance, so I'll be able to survive. And I'm looking like Rampage is now the play. Stomping, yeah, Stomp on the down body is also really good. So while I don't have a lot of like cleave for down bodies, I do have a lot of disruption for down bodies. And especially in a meta where Elixir R is very strong, moving down bodies is very strong. So any kind of like launch skill like Stomp is super strong, because what you do is you move the body out of the resing utility, and it's just really good. So yeah, I like that. And so we got the kills at mid, and I'm probably gonna push into far, but like I said, I don't really have like insanely fast kill potential with this build, so maybe not the best idea. So I'm gonna go for the the decap first. The Guardian is there, but my teammates are actually pushing in with me, so this is good. As you can see here, I land the full combo on this Guardian. No one's really hitting it though, so that's kind of unfortunate, but we're gonna get the kill eventually. He gets into his RF, but yeah, like you saw there, I CC'd them for like a really long time. If anyone had been on top of that target when I had done that, we would have gotten that kill really easily. So with coordination, this build is really good, right? So maybe not the best in solo queue, but it seems like it's a really fun build just for being able to stun lock people and prevent them. It's probably not that fun to play against, but it's probably fun to play. So here we're kind of like in a 3v4, and like I said, I don't have much down cleave, so I need my teammates to cleave or do something. But yeah, like I need to maybe like Rampage Stomp or something in that situation, but I'm not sure if it was on cooldown or not. But yeah, so that was a 3v4, and we died at mid actually too, so that's kind of weird how we lost the whole map like that. But at this point, I think I'm just gonna go to far and see what I can do there. We're losing home, and we lost mid. So yeah, we're losing pretty much the whole map, but we're going to cap far again for free. So I'm just going to try to stall people and prevent them from rotating. I do land a nice little hammer 2 there. Necros are kind of tanky though, so probably not going to get this kill too fast. Let's see what the map is. So we died in Rhodes, and then home is probably going to be in a losing matchup because there's more people on our side, on this side of the map. I'm actually in a 1v2 now, so I think this is pretty good because I can survive. Even though I don't have like much kill potential in like 1v1 situations, I can hold a node, right, or hold an outnumbered situation, right? So I think that this is actually pretty good. But now that my teammate has arrived, my Reaper, right, you can see that there's a lot of kill potential here because they can actually do damage. So I just CC, yeah, and we get the kills immediately as soon as like my Reaper is casting Lich and I'm CCing them in the Lich. So you can see there, it's just really good. And now their Core Guardian shows up, and that's the matchup that I said that it was really bad for me. So if I was, trying to really win the game right now, I might leave here, but I do try to stall it. That's maybe not a bad play either, because it is a very even match and maybe someone else can show up, and we don't necessarily need to win if we're just stalling the node, right? So yeah, my Necro actually shows up, and so does my Rev, so we can get this kill very quickly. All I want to do is just be as aggressive as possible. So I'm taking a lot of damage and it's very dangerous, and yeah, I almost go down here. So instead of trying to full cast my heal, I just weapon swap instead so don't go down. And now we have mid, and I'm not really sure about far, so yeah, I'm just gonna go into far, and I'm actually pretty low, so this is a dangerous situation. So yeah, my Rev shows up, so this is pretty good. I do want to get the decap though, so I go into far. They can fight off node all they want. I don't really have that much kill potential, so I'm not going to chase people off nodes. I'm going to try to, you know, play for the node here. But I do see that their Guardian is coming here, and that's the matchup that I didn't want again, because, you know, it's a really bad matchup for me. So right now maybe I would want to fight off the node, but the thing is, like, the match is in our favor, right? We have 2 nodes and they have 0, so we don't really need to snowball the map. We just kind of need to hold it as it is. So I'm actually going to play more conservatively here and just try to hold the node decapped, because at this rate we do win the game. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to survive as well as I can here, CC them, and yeah, my Revenant comes in and we get the kill very easily. So that's just really nice. And right here I stomp the body off the node, which is really good because I can get value off of bleeding the body while capping the node. But the thing is, actually bleeding is probably not the best play here, because we win if we get the kill, and there's a potential of us losing if somehow someone comes in and gets the rest, right? But the rest of the map is ours anyways, so it didn't really matter what I did there. But the best play was probably to just not bleed that out at all, just get the kill. But yeah, we do get the win, and yeah, that kind of shows you a little bit of the rotations of the build, because going to some places as this build is not good, and then going to other places is really good. You want to go where your teammates are and just CC and, you know, disrupt the enemy and get those kills for them that way. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want more, and leave a comment down below, because right now Warrior is probably one of the weakest classes right now. I feel like this build, it doesn't feel that bad to play in some situations, so it might be nice for people who really want to play Warrior right now, even though it's, you know, one of the weaker classes. But yeah, let me know what you think about it. And also 3v3 is coming out on Tuesday, so I'll be definitely doing a video on that, and maybe trying out some 3v3 comps and stuff like that.